My name is Lily. I'm 6 years old. Do you want to hear a secret? I once met the funniest, fluffiest, silliest orange cat in the whole world. His name is Pilo. But Pilo wasn't always my cat. Oh no. Before he found me, he had the craziest adventure ever. He was left all alone when his family moved away without him. Can you believe that? Poor Pilo thought it was just a game of hide and seek. This story is about how Pilo went from being a lonely street cat to becoming my best friend, and the king of our house. So get cozy under your blanket, close your eyes, and let me tell you everything about the street cat, Pilo's big adventure. Once upon a time, because every good bedtime story needs that classic opening, there was a cat named Pilo. Now, Pilo wasn't just any cat. Oh no, my friend. He was an orange, chubby, slightly lazy, gloriously unbothered cat who looked like he had been designed by someone who thought pumpkins were the peak of fashion. Pilo lived with a perfectly ordinary family. You know the type: mom who complains about cat hair on the couch, dad who pretends he doesn't like the cat but secretly gives him chicken scraps, and kids who scream his name like he's some sort of furry rock star. And Pilo? He owned the place. At least, he thought he did. Pilo's hobbies included sleeping in places specifically inconvenient for humans, like the laundry basket or right on top of freshly folded clothes. Stretching out on the sofa in positions so bizarre that even yoga instructors would say, "Nope, that's impossible." Running across the living room like a maniac at 3 a.m., because apparently every house cat believes in haunted hour cardio. But Pilo's greatest talent was falling. Yes, falling. He had mastered the art of climbing onto something, looking majestic, and then immediately face-planting like gravity had a personal vendetta against him. And yet, he'd get up, lick his paw, and strut away like, "Yeah, I meant to do that." Totally. Life was good. Warm. Predictable. Pilo got fed on time, well, mostly on time, if you asked him. He had a couch throne, a window seat to judge the neighbors, and enough belly rubs to keep his ego inflated. He was, in his mind, a king. But here's the thing about life, especially in bedtime stories, it has a nasty habit of changing just when you've gotten too comfortable. One sunny morning, the house was buzzing with unusual energy. Boxes were being taped shut, furniture was being lifted, and people were shouting instructions at each other like they were auditioning for a chaotic reality TV show. Pilo, however, didn't care. Why would he? Boxes? Loud noises? Moving humans? Not his problem. He figured it was another one of those strange human rituals, like cleaning the garage or pretending they'd start jogging on Monday. So what did Pilo do? Naturally, he flopped onto the living room rug, exposing his belly like a furry traffic cone in the middle of chaos. If anyone tripped over him, well, that was their problem, wasn't it? Every now and then, someone would step over him with a sigh. "Pilo, move." And he'd squint his eyes and give them the slow blink of doom. The kind of look that said, "I was here first, peasants." But little did Pilo know, this wasn't just spring cleaning. This wasn't a new couch delivery. No, no, no. His family was moving out. Like, permanently. Now, before you panic, let me assure you, no one planned to abandon Pilo. They loved him, they really did. But as fate would have it, and because cats are absolute masters of inconvenient timing, Pilo was about to make a choice so spectacularly dumb it would change his life forever. Because you see, while humans were loading boxes into the moving truck, Pilo discovered something extraordinary. A cardboard box. Not just any box. A large, sturdy, perfectly cozy box. To you and me, it's trash. To Pilo, it was like the 5-star resort of feline real estate. He sniffed it, circled it, jumped inside. Ah, heaven. The sides hugged his chubby body just right. The faint smell of instant noodles still lingered inside, which, honestly, made it even better. And then, because Pilo was a professional napper, he fell asleep. Instantly. Meanwhile, the humans, those chaotic, stressed-out creatures, were too busy arguing about bubble wrap and which kid forgot their backpack to notice the king had tucked himself away inside his cardboard castle. And so, as the moving truck roared to life and the house began to empty, Pilo snored on. His little orange belly rose and fell, his paw twitched, maybe he even dreamed of chasing giant tuna fish. Totally unaware that when he woke up, his entire world would be flipped upside down. Because soon, very soon, Pilo would open his eyes to silence. To emptiness. To a house with no voices, no smells of dinner cooking, no little hands reaching down to pat his head. But let's not jump ahead just yet. For now, picture him, the chubby orange king, asleep in his noodle-scented throne, while life outside the box marched on without him. And that, dear listener, is where our story truly begins. Pilo had been in the box for what felt like a solid lifetime nap, which, to be fair, in cat time probably meant 2 hours. And let's be honest, cats measure time differently than humans. 5 minutes of waiting for food? Eternal suffering. 12 hours of sleep? Just a warm-up. So when he finally cracked one golden eye open, the first thing Pilo noticed was silence. Not the usual Saturday morning silence where everyone's out grocery shopping and comes back with snacks he can steal. No, this was the kind of silence that made the fur on his tail stand up. He stretched. Yawned so wide he looked like a tiny lion. Then waddled out of his cardboard palace like royalty returning from a nap. But instead of his kingdom bustling with life, he found nothing. The living room? Empty. The sofa where he usually performed his dramatic fainting act? Gone. His scratching post? Missing. The TV where he liked to sit and block everyone's view during the season finale? Vanished. Pilo blinked. He sat down. He blinked again. Okay, guys, he seemed to say with his face, very funny. Hide and seek. Classic. And so began the world's worst game of hide and seek. First stop, the kitchen. Obviously. Because if his humans were hiding anywhere, it would be near food. Pilo strutted in, whiskers twitching, tail flicking with purpose. But the bowls, his sacred bowls, were gone. Not just empty, but gone. The audacity. He meowed, loudly, in case someone was under the table. Echoes bounced back at him like the house itself was laughing. He meowed again, this time with more drama. Still nothing. Fine, his eyes said, you want to play it this way? Challenge accepted. Next stop, the bedroom. Pilo leapt onto the bed, well, more like heaved himself up with the grace of a half-inflated balloon, and clawed at the blankets. No humans. just dust and a faint smell of laundry detergent. He sneezed loudly. He checked the closet. Empty. The bathroom. Empty. Even the laundry basket, his usual throne of questionable socks, was empty. By this point, Pilo's confidence was slipping. He trotted back to the hallway, tail flicking in irritation. "All right, family. You got me. Come out now. Joke's over." But no one answered. Instead, he noticed something else: the front door. Wide open. A faint draft carried in smells from outside: grass, car exhaust, someone's barbecue 2 blocks away. Normally, Pilo hated the outside. Too bright. Too noisy. Too, not a sofa. But now, it was the only clue left. And here's the thing about cats: they're stubborn. If you've ever tried to move a cat off your laptop, you know what I mean. And Pilo? Oh, he was stubborn with extra cheese on top. He padded toward the doorway, his paws clicking softly on the hardwood floor. Outside, the world was huge. Way bigger than his little window view kingdom had ever suggested. Cars whooshed by, dogs barked in the distance, birds mocked him from the telephone wires. It was chaos. And Pilo hated chaos. He sat there, staring, tail flicking like an impatient metronome. "This is ridiculous," he thought. "They probably just went to the store." Yep. All of them. At once. With all the furniture. Totally normal. But deep down, even Pilo's sardonic cat brain knew something was wrong. The house wasn't just quiet. It was hollow. Deserted. Empty in a way that made his belly twist. Not the hungry twist, though yes, he was hungry too, but the other kind. The lonely kind. And then it hit him. Like a falling lamp he'd definitely knocked over before. His family was gone. Gone. He sat there in the doorway, eyes wide, ears twitching, looking both pitiful and ridiculous. A fat orange cat abandoned in an empty house, as if life itself had pressed the world's rudest pause button. He gave one final meow. Not the bossy kind. Not the "feed me now" kind. But the sad, broken kind. The kind that echoed into empty walls and got no answer. For the first time in his gloriously spoiled life, Pilo realized he was alone. And somewhere in his little cat brain, past the sarcasm, past the laziness, past the obsession with food and naps, a single thought bubbled up. Well, crap. So there he was, Pilo the Orange, former household royalty, now downgraded to street-level nobody. It was tragic. It was heartbreaking. It was also, let's be honest, a little bit hilarious, because watching a chunky house cat try to navigate the outside world is basically the universe's idea of slapstick comedy. Pilo stepped out of the doorway like an explorer, if that explorer hated everything about exploring. His ears twitched at every sound, his eyes darted like he was waiting for someone to yell, "Boo," and his paws touched the ground with the kind of disgust usually reserved for stepping on wet cereal. The outside world, as it turned out, was loud. Cars zoomed by like metal monsters. Dogs barked like unpaid security guards. Birds laughed overhead, yes, laughed. You can't convince Pilo otherwise. Every chirp was clearly avian mockery. Still, his stomach reminded him of a universal truth: survival requires snacks. So, mission number 1, find food. The butterfly incident. Spotting a butterfly fluttering by, Pilo's predator instincts, buried somewhere under layers of kibble and naps, suddenly kicked in. His eyes narrowed. His body crouched low. He was sleek, he was silent, he was, oh, who are we kidding? He was about as subtle as a bowling ball in a library. With one heroic pounce, he launched himself at the butterfly. For a brief, shining second, Pilo thought, yes, I am the mighty hunter. And then, whomp! Straight into a bush. Leaves in his face, twigs in his fur, butterfly long gone, probably telling its little bug friends about the fat orange cat who failed miserably. Pilo clawed his way out, looking around like, no one saw that, right? Spoiler, the pigeons totally saw it. The fish market fiasco. Next stop, the fish market. Oh, the smell. The glorious, salty, fishy smell. Pilo's nose twitched like a GPS locking onto treasure. He slinked. Well, slinked is generous. He waddled toward a stall stacked with fresh fish. He waited for the perfect moment, eyes locked on a shiny silver prize. Then, bam! He lunged, teeth ready for victory. Except, plot twist, the fish was on ice. And ice is slippery. Pilo slid across the stall like a furry orange hockey puck, crashing into a bucket of shrimp. The fishmonger shrieked, grabbed a broom, and swatted at him like he was a raccoon in disguise. Water splashed everywhere. Shrimp scattered like confetti. And Pilo? He bolted, wet, fishless, and very offended. The alley cat showdown. Drenched, humiliated, and still starving, Pilo stumbled into an alley. That's when he saw them, 3 lean, scarred-up street cats. They looked like they belonged in a feline version of a biker gang. Pilo puffed out his chest. He could handle this. He was a cat. A mighty predator. A fearless. Okay, no. He immediately regretted it. But he was in too deep. The biggest alley cat narrowed his eyes, as if saying, nice furball you got there. Be ashamed if something happened to it. Pilo tried to look tough. He arched his back, hissed dramatically, and leapt onto a fence. Except his paw slipped. And down he went. Face first into a trash can lid. The gang burst out laughing, the cruel, echoing laughter of cats who've seen things. Pilo scrambled up, dignity in shambles, and scurried away. The lonely night. By the time night fell, Pilo was exhausted. His fur was still damp, his stomach empty, and his pride severely injured. He found shelter under a park bench, curling up as the streetlights flickered on. The city buzzed around him, cars honking, people shouting, dogs barking, but for the first time, Pilo realized how quiet it was without his family. No familiar voices. No kids tugging his tail. No warm couch waiting for him. Just cold pavement and the occasional rat staring at him like, you gonna eat that? Pilo sighed, tucking his tail close. His big orange body shivered slightly as he closed his eyes. He tried to convince himself this was fine, that he was still the king. But in the silence, even he couldn't ignore the truth. Pilo, the once spoiled house cat, was now just another street cat, alone, hungry, and wondering how on earth he was going to survive tomorrow. And yet, deep in his stubborn little heart, a flicker of determination sparked. Because if there's one thing Pilo had always been good at, besides falling, it was never giving up on food, naps, and the hope that someone, somewhere, would pet him again. And so, with the city humming around him, Pilo drifted into sleep, dreaming of fish he couldn't catch and sofas he couldn't reach. But tomorrow? Tomorrow the real adventure would begin. The next morning, Pilo woke up under that park bench with a backache that could only be described as senior citizen level discomfort. Apparently, concrete wasn't as cozy as his old memory foam pillow. Who knew? He stretched, yawned, and blinked at the sunlight stabbing him right in the face. Ugh, his expression said. Who ordered the sun this early? Cancel it. But life on the street doesn't take requests. And today, Pilo was about to meet some characters that would test his patience, his pride, and his already questionable dignity. The fried rice vendor. First stop, breakfast. Pilo's belly growled like a lawnmower running out of gas. He wandered toward the smell of something sizzling. There, on a street corner, a man was cooking fried rice in a giant wok. The aroma was divine, oily, garlicky, absolutely illegal levels of delicious. Pilo parked himself a few feet away, giving the man his best, sad orphan cat face. Head tilted. Eyes wide. Tail curled just so. The vendor looked down, frowned, and waved his spatula. Shoo! Go away. Pilo didn't budge. Instead, he plopped onto the ground like a fuzzy orange beanbag. No, sir. I live here now, his body language declared. The man sighed, tossed a chicken bone onto the sidewalk, then muttered, Fine, but don't come crying when the dogs chase you. Pilo grabbed the bone and strutted off like he'd just won a Michelin star dinner. Dignity restored. Well, until the bone turned out to be mostly cartilage. But hey, free food is free food. The dog encounter. Speaking of dogs. Later that afternoon, Pilo found himself strolling through an alley when a booming bark rattled the air. He froze. Slowly, like in a horror movie, he turned his head. And there it was, a dog the size of a small bear. The dog growled, teeth bared, ready to chase. Pilo's brain screamed, Panic! Panic now! But instead of running, like a normal cat, Pilo had a genius idea. He froze. Completely still. Like a statue. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Pilo the cat had decided that his best survival tactic was to pretend he wasn't alive. The dog tilted its head, confused. It sniffed the air. Pilo didn't move a whisker. Nope. Just a weirdly fluffy lawn ornament, his body screamed. After what felt like an eternity, the dog's owner called it away. The beast trotted off, leaving Pilo standing there, stiff as a board. Finally, when the coast was clear, he exhaled loudly and collapsed in a heap. See, he would have said if he spoke English. Tactical genius. Totally planned. The kid with too much energy. As evening rolled in, Pilo wandered near a little newspaper stand. That's where he met a kid, maybe 10 years old, buzzing with more energy than 3 cans of soda. Oh, kitty, the boy squealed, dropping his stack of papers. He ran over and scooped Pilo up before the poor cat had time to protest. Now, Pilo wasn't against human affection. He liked pets. He liked scritches. But this was not affection. This was an Olympic wrestling match disguised as cuddling. The boy squeezed him, spun him around, buried his face in Pilo's fur. You're so fluffy. Pilo's face said it all, pure betrayal. He hung limp in the kid's arms like a hostage, his eyes wide, his dignity evaporating by the second. After a few minutes, the boy's mom shouted, "Put that cat down before you catch something." The kid reluctantly dropped Pilo, who bolted away so fast he might have set a personal best. Note to self, never trust small humans with unlimited energy. The lonely evening. By the time the sun dipped low, Pilo was exhausted. He had eaten scraps, dodged death by dog, and survived a cuddle attack from a sugar-fueled child. He slumped near a fountain, licking his fur back into place. And yet, beneath all the chaos, something strange was happening. For the first time since being abandoned, Pilo felt, noticed. The world wasn't his family, no. But it wasn't entirely empty either. There were people out there, some kind, some scary, some downright annoying, but people nonetheless. He curled up under the fountain, his belly finally somewhat full, and sighed. Maybe, just maybe, this world of strangers wasn't all bad. Still terrifying, still loud, still unfair. But not completely hopeless. As he drifted to sleep, his mind replayed the day's encounters. The food vendor, the dog, the boy. All strange, all new. Maybe tomorrow would bring more. Maybe, just maybe, tomorrow would bring someone who'd stick around. And so, under the city lights, our chubby orange hero snored once again, dreaming, hoping, and, of course, planning his next snack. Because even in the darkest times, a cat's gotta eat. By now, Pilo had survived enough street drama to qualify for his own reality TV show. He had eaten questionable leftovers, outsmarted a dog using the "I'm a statue" method, and endured the suffocating hug of a child who thought cats were teddy bears with pulses. Honestly, if there was a medal for most reluctant survivor, Pilo deserved it. But on this particular night, something felt different. The air was colder, the streets quieter. Even the pigeons, his usual hecklers, had gone to bed. Pilo padded along the sidewalk, his paws sore from walking all day, his belly rumbling like an old washing machine. He needed shelter. He needed warmth. He needed, well, let's be honest, he needed a miracle. And then, as if on cue, he saw it. A house. Not just any house. This one looked warm. Inviting. The kind of house that screamed, "We bake cookies in here and argue about board games." Golden light spilled out from the windows, cutting through the darkness. For Pilo, it was like spotting an oasis in the desert, except the desert was made of concrete and bad decisions. He crept closer, whiskers twitching. Inside, at a dining table, sat a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 8. She was eating something, spaghetti, maybe? Pilo's stomach growled in betrayal, louder than he intended. The girl froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Slowly, she turned toward the window. And there he was, one soggy, chubby, pitiful orange cat staring in like a creepy furry stalker. For a second, time stopped. Then, giggle. The girl laughed. Not the mean kind, not the "look at the fat cat stuck in the trash can" kind. It was light. Pure. The kind of laugh Pilo hadn't heard in what felt like forever. Intrigued, the girl set down her fork and tiptoed to the door. Pilo, panicking, tried to act cool. He licked his paw, sat up straighter, pretended he wasn't literally 5 seconds away from fainting from hunger. The door creaked open. Warm air drifted out, wrapping around him like a hug. The girl crouched down, her face glowing in the porch light. "Hi, kitty," she whispered. "Are you lost?" Pilo blinked. His inner monologue screamed, "Yes. Lost. Starving. Betrayed by life itself. Feed me, small human." But outwardly, he just gave her the biggest, saddest, most manipulative slow blink he could muster. The girl giggled again. "You're funny. And you're fluffy. Really fluffy." As if to prove her point, Pilo attempted to groom himself. Except his tongue went in the wrong direction, and instead of smoothing his fur, he made it stick up like he'd been electrocuted. Smooth. Real smooth. The girl laughed so hard she nearly fell over. "Mom! Dad! There's a silly cat outside." Footsteps echoed inside. Pilo's ears flattened. Uh-oh. The parental figures. These were the real decision-makers. He had to play this carefully. The dad appeared first, squinting at the orange blob on the porch. "We can't just let some random street cat in. It's dirty, it might have fleas." Rude. Accurate, but rude. Then the mom peeked out. "Ah, poor thing. Look at his face. He looks desperate." "Excuse me, ma'am," Pilo thought, "this is not desperation. This is dignified begging." The little girl pouted, her secret weapon. "Please? Just for tonight? He's so cold." The parents exchanged that universal parent look, the one that says, "We're doomed, the kid already won." Finally, with a sigh, the mom disappeared inside and returned with a small bowl of warm milk. She set it on the porch. And friends, let me tell you, Pilo didn't even try to act cool anymore. He dove into that bowl like it was the Last Supper, slurping so loudly you'd think he'd never seen food in his life. Milk splattered everywhere. His whiskers dripped. His dignity? Long gone. The girl clapped her hands in delight. "He's so funny. Can we keep him, please?" The dad groaned. "We'll see." Which, as any child knows, is parent code for probably yes, but don't push it. When Pilo finished, he sat back, licking milk off his chin. The porch light bathed him in gold. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, he felt warm. Safe. Wanted. He curled up right there on the mat, tail wrapped around his body, eyes half closed. The girl reached out and gently petted his head. He purred, a rusty, broken-sounding purr at first, but it grew louder. Stronger. For the first time since he'd lost his family, Pilo felt it, hope. And though he'd never admit it, because sarcasm was basically his native language, deep down he thought, maybe, just maybe, I've found my way home. The next morning, Pilo woke up to something he hadn't felt in days, comfort. Not real comfort. He wasn't on a velvet sofa with a sunbeam perfectly angled across his belly, but compared to sleeping under a park bench with questionable rodents for neighbors? This was the Ritz. He blinked open his eyes. There he was, sprawled out on the little girl's welcome mat like he owned the place. His fur was still a mess, dried milk crusted on his chin, but he didn't care. Because inside that house, there was warmth, food, and maybe, just maybe, a future. But there was a problem. A huge, parent-shaped problem. See, the little girl already loved him. That was obvious. Kids fall for cats faster than parents fall for limited time offers. But the dad? Oh, the dad was skeptical. He eyed Pilo like the cat was about to file taxes under his name. And the mom, well, she was halfway convinced, but still hesitant. So, if Pilo wanted to turn this temporary porch stay into permanent indoor luxury, he had to pull out every trick in the Chubby Orange Cat playbook. He had to perform. And perform he did. Act 1, the carpet roll. Later that day, the family let Pilo inside for just a few minutes, probably to test if he was civilized enough not to explode on the furniture. Pilo knew this was his chance. The little girl clapped happily as he waddled into the living room. He looked around, nice sofa, soft carpet, oh, and a vase he'd definitely knock over later if given the chance. Showtime. Pilo suddenly flopped onto the carpet and rolled. Full-on dramatic rolling. Belly exposed, paws in the air, tail twitching. He rolled one way, then the other, groaning theatrically like he was auditioning for Fat Cat Does Gymnastics. The girl squealed with laughter. The mom smiled despite herself. Even the dad muttered, well, he does look kind of silly. Score, Pilo, 1, Dad's resistance, 0. Act 2, the door guard. That evening, when the family went out for groceries, Pilo made another bold move. He waddled over to the front door and plopped down right in front of it. Not next to it. Not casually near it. No, he spread himself across the threshold like an orange, furry bouncer. When they came back, there he was, blocking entry, staring up at them with the stoicism of a knight sworn to protect the kingdom. The dad sighed. He's literally in the way. The girl gasped. No, Daddy. He's guarding us. See? He's protecting the house. Pilo purred dramatically, as if to say, yes. Exactly. Me, the brave warrior cat. Pay no attention to the fact that I'd run screaming from a moth. The mom chuckled. The dad rolled his eyes. Resistance slipping further. Act 3, the dinner serenade. The ultimate move came at dinner time. Oh yes. Pilo had been saving this one. As the family sat down to eat, the smell of fried chicken filled the air. Pilo's pupils dilated to dinner plate size. He positioned himself strategically under the table. And then, like an opera singer preparing for the grand finale, he let out the loudest, most pathetic meow in his arsenal. Meow. Heads turned. Forks paused. The girl burst out laughing. See? He's saying he's hungry too. The dad groaned. He's saying he's annoying. But Pilo wasn't done. Oh no. He meowed again, longer, sadder, like a cat auditioning for a tragedy play. He pawed at the dad's shoe. He looked up with the biggest, wettest, most manipulative eyes in feline history. Finally, the mom sighed, picked a small piece of chicken, and dropped it down. Pilo snapped it up like a vacuum cleaner, then purred so loudly the table shook. Game. Set. Match. The breaking point. Later that night, after the girl had gone to bed, the parents sat in the living room. Pilo lay curled up on the carpet, purring like an overworked motorboat. The dad shook his head. We can't just look at him. He's shedding everywhere already. The mom smiled softly. But, look at her. She hasn't smiled this much in weeks. And he's kind of sweet. In his own messy way. Pilo, half asleep, rolled over and snored loudly. The dad glared. The mom laughed. And just like that, the balance tipped. Curtain call. The next morning, the girl came running down the stairs. "Daddy, did you decide? Can we keep him?" The dad sighed heavily, the sigh of a man who knew he had lost the battle long before it began. "Fine. But he's your responsibility." The girl squealed, hugging Pilo so tightly he wheezed. "You're mine now. You're my kitty." Pilo blinked, still squished, still confused, but undeniably happy. He had done it. Through sheer determination, ridiculous antics, and a voice louder than a lawnmower, he had clawed his way back into a home. And in his head, as he purred, he thought, "Bow down, peasants. The king has returned." And so, just like that, the once mighty, once abandoned, once bush-face-planting cat named Pilo finally had a home again. No more trash can dinners. No more being chased by dogs with biceps bigger than his own stomach. No more sleeping under benches while pigeons heckled him like sports commentators. Nope. Those days were behind him. Now, his mornings began with the smell of toast and the sound of the little girl's giggles. She bounced down the stairs shouting, "Good morning, Pilo," as if he hadn't just been snoring like a freight train next to her bed all night. And his days? Oh, his days were glorious. The couch throne returns. The sofa, oh, sweet, glorious sofa, was his again. Except now it was even better, because the girl would drape a blanket over him like he was some kind of royal burrito. Sometimes the dad would grumble, "That cat takes up more space than I do," while Pilo stretched himself across the cushions like a furry orange king. Did Pilo feel guilty? Not even a little. In fact, he usually answered with a long, exaggerated yawn right in the man's face. The little girl's shadow. Everywhere the girl went, Pilo followed. To the kitchen, to the backyard, even to the bathroom door, because cats don't respect privacy, ever. She fed him treats, brushed his fur, badly, but with love, and told him all her secrets like he was her furry little therapist. Pilo would sit there, eyes half closed, pretending to listen, when really he was thinking, "Yes, child, fascinating story about your math homework. Now open the tuna can." Winning over the dad. And the dad? Oh, Pilo worked his magic on him too. Slowly, sneakily. At first, the man resisted. "He's shedding all over my chair. He scratches the rug. He ate my chicken wing when I wasn't looking." All fair complaints. But over time, something changed. Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, the dad would sneak into the kitchen, grab a midnight snack, and, oops, just happened to drop a piece for Pilo. Pilo pretended not to notice the hypocrisy. He simply gobbled it up, then rubbed against the man's leg like, "See? We're buddies now. Admit it." And the dad did admit it eventually, though only when no one else was around. The mom's favorite child. The mom, of course, melted faster. Moms always do. She'd coo at him while folding laundry, sneak him extra bites of fish, and scratch under his chin until his purrs rattled the windows. "See," she'd tell the dad, "he belongs here. He's family now." And though the dad would roll his eyes, he didn't argue anymore. Because deep down, he knew it was true. The new king of the castle. Weeks passed, and Pilo's transformation was complete. From abandoned, scrappy street survivor to pampered, spoiled indoor cat once more. But this time, it felt different. Stronger. More permanent. Because now, he wasn't just a pet. He was the girl's protector, her companion, her nightly snuggle buddy. He wasn't just tolerated by the parents, he was part of the family fabric, woven right in like an orange, shedding thread. And Pilo knew it. Oh, he knew. He strutted around the house like he owned every square inch. The backyard? His hunting grounds. The kitchen? His buffet. The girl's bed? His throne. Sometimes he'd still stare out the window at the streetlights, remembering the nights when he had nothing but cold concrete and his sarcastic little inner voice to keep him company. And then he'd turn back, curl into a ball on his blanket, and sigh in contentment. Because here, in this house, with this family, he had found something better than food, better than couches, even better than chicken scraps. He had found home. The moral? Because every bedtime story needs one. So, what did we learn from the saga of Pilo the Orange? Life can flip you upside down, drop you into bushes, chase you with dogs, and humiliate you in front of alley cat biker gangs. You might lose everything you thought you had. But sometimes, just sometimes, that loss leads you exactly where you were meant to be. And if you're lucky, maybe it even comes with a kid who thinks you're the funniest, fluffiest creature alive. As Pilo drifted off to sleep on his new bed, purring so loud the neighbors probably complained, he thought one final, sarcastic thought. Well, it took a while. But the king is finally back in his castle. And this time, they'd better not pack up without me. And with that, dear listener, it's time to close your eyes. Because if Pilo the chubby orange cat can survive the chaos of life and still land on a soft blanket in the end, maybe everything's going to be alright for you, too. Good night. And that's how Pilo found me. He wasn't just a cat from the street anymore, he was my family. Now he sleeps on my bed every night, he eats too much chicken, and he makes the funniest faces when he falls off the couch. Sometimes, when I hug him really tight, I tell him, "Don't worry, Pilo. I'll never leave you behind." And he just purrs and closes his eyes, like he understands every word. So, if you ever feel lost, like Pilo once did, remember, maybe your home, your people, your happy ending, is still waiting for you, just around the corner. Good night, and sweet dreams, from me and Pilo.